Welcome back to this week's podcast, and I've got a really great guest with me this week, a very good friend of mine, someone I've known for a number of years, a wonderful man, and someone that we're going to have a great conversation with over the course of the next 45 minutes or so to talk about business, about sales, about life, about everything in general, really, about how to achieve the success that you want to. And I'm going to give a warm welcome to Mr. Alexander Seery. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, thanks, James. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm very good. So look, you've everyone a bit of perspective. I've known Alex for a number of years, and it's been a great privilege for me to sort of spend time with him on his journey and see what's happened over the course of the last probably 6-7 years. Is it we know each other now? I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, 6 years, 6.5 years.
6.5 years. And Alex has built a number of incredible businesses, one of which is a business called Shifts to Success, which turns or helps police officers, and has helped over 250, I think now, police officers who are frustrated with the police force to become entrepreneurs. And he's also built a really successful multi-million-pound property business, as well as now some new interests in some new other financial areas as well. So he's got lots of business interests, and we're going to talk through lots of different things today. But for those of you that don't, for those people that don't know you, tell people a bit, in a 1 minute about you and your background, mate.
Yeah, so I came from humble beginnings. I had no previous business experience or, not really good academic issues as well. So like when it comes to the school and university, I didn't go to university, didn't stick college out. And then found myself working in care, young age, probably around 18 years old, working with autistic adults with challenging behavior. After that, I then applied to the police force, first as a special constable. That was my way in, which is basically a police officer that you don't get paid for. So like you're a voluntary police officer. Enjoyed that. And then I applied to become a detention officer. So detention officer is basically processing detainees, fingerprints, DNA, searching, making sure that detainees are being facilitated the right way. And then whilst I was in the police force, I realised my dreams of becoming a regular police officer were dashed when I started surrounding myself with police officers on a more regular basis. And I decided to go into business. And that first business was the property industry. Was financially broke at the time. I was 24 years old with more hair, and essentially started that business. All the fears that a lot of people have, fear of, your self-ability, you're financially broke, you've got no experience whatsoever. So I went into that industry. I invested around £18,000 plus VAT, which is all my savings at the time. To get to that £18,000 plus VAT number, I had to take out some debt as well. And I invested in myself. So I didn't know about property. I didn't know what architrave was. I didn't know what a mortgage was. At the time, I was living with my my ex-partner's mum and herself because I unfortunately got kicked out at a young age. And basically, I invest that money. I can remember literally throwing up, literally getting sick after invest that money. And within about a 18-month period since joining that, that program, that course, I was able to build a multiple six-figure income property business and accumulate over £1 million worth of assets, not multi-millions. I heard you say that. So it's
my bad. Yeah. Oh, what's $1 million between friends?
Yeah. So and that's property worth. I think a lot of people in property say that, they ban that round quite, but it's value, it's locked away. So it's not real kind of, I don't know, liquid, should I say. So, yeah, I then resigned from the police force. I started to realise that a lot of cops, when they were questioning me on, how I did things, they were congratulating me. Some were jealous as well. And I started to realise that a lot of people in the police do want a new life. They want to leave the job. They are sick of the issues that the job brings them, unfortunately, but they have some few issues, such as their own mindset issues, their own lack of belief, and unfortunately they become institutionalized by the job, thinking that the job's all they've ever known, so they can't try something new, right? So that's where the idea of Shift Success came about. That came out of an idea. I then started to seek some amazing mentors. James, you're one of them, our sales mentor, and that started in 2018. We worked with hundreds of ex-and-serving police officers all around the UK, and we helped them live life on their terms with more income, time, and passion. So, that's more of a snapshot, a quick introduction to where I was.
A brilliant story. And look, I want to just pick up, if you're okay with as well, because I want to pick up on what you said at the start about you were kicked out of home. And, me and you talked a lot about, especially in sales and business, there is a mindset is everything, and our mentality is everything, really. And I guess I wanted just to pick up on how that felt for you at that time. Can you remember, if you're okay to, apologies if I talk about something that's a bit close, but you remember at that moment what happened and the background? Because obviously I've always said to people, I think your story is very inspirational of someone that could have gone a certain different direction, but you chose a different path, even though you maybe weren't given all the opportunities that some may have been given.
Yeah, I have no problem speaking about it. So a bit about me. So my mum and dad split up when I was 10 years old. So and my dad always had good memories of him. There was no bad memories. He never disciplined me, really. He was very funny. He always played around with me. So I've always got good memories of my dad, right? So mum and dad split at 10. Unfortunately, they were unfaithful to each other. And, growing up as a young guy, sometimes my mum would portray my dad as he doing all the wrong. And actually, as I grew older, that was not the case. She was just as bad, unfortunately. And essentially, growing up through teenage years, my dad wasn't around. So he was a bad father. I had good memories of him. But he's not, I wouldn't put him as a bad human being, so to speak. He just wasn't up to standard when it comes to being a dad. So growing up as a teenager, I was a typical lad. I'd like to mess around with mates. I was mischievous. Obviously never got in trouble with the police or anything like that. Never brought trouble home or anything like that. But what became apparent was that my mum had a very deep hatred towards my dad. And for whatever reason, that was taken out on me, being the older brother. I've got a younger brother as well. He's 7.5 years younger than me. But that was quite evident that was taken out on myself. And I understand my mum's frustrations with being a single mother. I completely get that. But it became apparent that the neglect and the lack of love that I had as a young growing man without a father figure, a real father, I think my uncle stepped in at times, became apparent. And my mum got very racially abusive. So I'm Jamaican, Irish, and English. My dad is Jamaican and English. And she became very racist. When I would, do things she didn't like, she'd say bad terms around black people. And I thought, growing up now, I think that's quite strange because she's got two sons who are mixed race. But yeah, it became apparent that, we weren't getting on, weren't clicking whatsoever. And then there was one instance where, this happened throughout my childhood where my mum would bring other men home. And for a young teenage boy to see your mum with another man when there's no introduction, there's no, this is my boyfriend or whatever, there was none of that. And seeing that, walking in on that, unfortunately triggered anger in me. Now, thankfully, I didn't ever, have aggression towards my mum or anything like that. But yeah, I built up anger. I could feel it. So that was, kind of helped by my uncle. He redirected me into sports, I had boxing and kickboxing, but it came to a head where I was about 21 years old. From 19 to 21 years old, this is the period, probably the lowest point, where me and my mum wasn't getting on whatsoever. And at 18 years old, you start going out with your friends, right? Started drinking and stuff like that. And it became apparent that I was getting myself in a bit of a cycle. And unfortunately, I would end up having fights on nights out, and I would intentionally look for them. I'm not proud saying that. Anyone listens to this, it's not a big thing to do. It's not a manly thing to do. But I was in a peer group where very masculine, all these lads around me. And what would happen is that once I would get in a fight, I would then get attention and quote unquote love from my peer group instead of from home. So every time psychologically I get into a fight, I get love and affection from my friends, but then it became more and more. And that's when my friends started to get a bit annoyed, actually. And I just realized, something had to change. So thankfully, when I joined the police, that stopped immediately. I started training in the gym, started getting myself disciplined. And I didn't go out as much and kind of stayed away from that kind of area because I associated going out with getting in trouble. And I wanted to come away from that. But essentially one day when I was 21 years old, I came home to my mother's home, and she was with a guy who was just sitting in the lounge. And I asked where my brother was. And my brother had been with my uncle for 3 days. And I just, something didn't sit right then. So I texted my brother saying, when are you coming home? I want to see you, that kind of thing. I love my brother to bits. And he said, I've been trying to come home, but mum won't pick me up. And that really got to me, because she's chose someone else over her sons. And that really affected me. So I walked into the lounge. I said to the guy, you have to leave. 21, I was scrawny, I was 21 years old, I wasn't manly or anything like that, but I said, look, you need to leave. As soon as I said that, mum took a turn and went wild. My granddad came round, my auntie came round. There was a big argument, and I was essentially asked to leave. I thankfully was with my partner, that's my ex-partner at the time, just started dating really. But I was homeless. I had nowhere to go. I was thinking about where I could go.
She told you to leave, basically.
She told me to leave. That's right, yeah. And in fact, I was at 21 years old, and to this day, at 34 years old, I've never returned. I've never seen my mum since. And yeah, I ended up living with my ex-girlfriend and her mum. And during about maybe a year later from there, that's where I started getting involved in the police, and then started to building steps to ultimately change my life. So, I've never returned from that day. I haven't got a relationship with my mum, unfortunately. I've not looked back. And what I think has helped me to overcome certain things in my life is I've never been a one to be a victim mindset. At that time of 21 years old, unfortunately, I had suicidal thoughts. I was crying. I felt lonely. I didn't have, obviously, my dad left. I think that's the thing you go through. You start thinking about, my real dad's not here. My mum doesn't like me. All right. And I've not got a massive family. So I'm thinking, well, what?
It does love you.
Yeah. Who's here? Who have I got? And I see all these people who've got loving families, and it's amazing. And I think, why haven't I got that? And it's almost like a frustration, a real. It was, I know it was a depression. The suicidal thoughts came, and I was just in a dark hole for a long time. It really was.
And just to pick up on that a little, it's incredibly. I know the story, but it even makes me sad when I hear it now, when you're sharing it with other people. And thank you for being so honest, and you'll inspire lots of people with that. There could have been a point where you could have gone, but this could have gone one, two ways, right? You've chosen a path to success and to achieve your life that you want to, and to have your dream house, and I know you've got a beautiful wife to be and a baby on the way, and it's like the life is now good. But it could have gone the other way, right? Because there's a lot of people where it could have gone that way. Can you ever remember sort of what was so critical in actually making that choice between sort of the dark place and the place that you are now?
Yeah, I honestly think it was almost an anger, a redirected anger. And I think a lot of people think that anger is a bad emotion, and I don't think it is when it's redirected to the right thing. So my anger came out to, I will never be like this woman who I labeled as mum. I will never be like her, ever. And on the contrast, although my dad was never malicious in that way, I also told myself I would never be a father like my dad, right? I'll never be like him either, right? So it was almost like a frustration, anger towards I'll prove you wrong. I'm going to do something, and I'm not going to prove you right in thinking that I'm not going to be someone of. Well,
you channeled it in a positive way, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the gym helped as well. I also think stopping myself from going out, and I'm one thing about me, James, is I'm very self-aware, and being out in the lovely group of friends, but I was playing up, and I need to stop that. I need to cut it out. So I think that helps. I think get myself involved in the gym, started training. At that age, 20ish, I started to get involved in boxing as well. So that kept me, And you
had a secret career as a model, as we. I know.
Yeah. So again, I think that's out of anger and frustration as well. And I think I forgot the word for it. I heard one of our clients, actually, one of our members called Mark Walsh. He mentioned this, that he has a not a condition or anything like that, but it's like you lack attention from your parents, and you almost want to achieve elsewhere. So you've got like a sense of achievement. So I got involved in a bit of modeling. That again, probably when I was about 24, 26 at this time. But that was way after I started to, read books, get myself, focused. By that time, I already started my first business. But if, in a nutshell, it was redirected anger. I think that's what it came down to, proving people wrong. I wanted to be someone who's achieved something. I didn't want to look back and go, I can't do this because my parents didn't love me. And there's a great story, right? An alcoholic father, where, these two brothers, they have an alcoholic father. The brothers are then interviewed later on in life. One's extremely successful and one's, nothing. He's not achieved anything. In fact, he's a drinker as well. And the journalist interviews the successful person and says, the alcoholic brother, and says, why are you an alcoholic? What happened? And he says, my father was an alcoholic. And she interviews the other brother who's successful and asks, why are you so successful? What happened? And he says, because my father was an alcoholic. And I think that little story, whether it's true or not, highlights the fact you've always got a choice, and pain, whatever you experience in life, can push you or prevent you. And most people think it can prevent you. And actually, that doesn't have to be the case whatsoever. It can actually push you into new heights and new, achievement in life.
It's incredible hearing it. It's always one of the things I've always said to you, and we've known each other for a long time. And I think it's one of the key, as I say, massive areas where I've got a huge amount of respect and admiration for you and what you've done because of, having that, those situations. But you're right, it's about channeling it. It's about being able to use it as a motivation. So many people, unfortunately, do and want to be the victim. They want to be the person that people can talk about and that they can put a barrier in their way, rather than being able to say, well, actually, nothing's going to stop me getting in my way, and I'm going to use this as fuel to drive and generate what I want to get to. So I
think why people like to play the victim is because it doesn't have to be their fault and they don't have to take personal responsibility. So when something happens to someone, it's a reason for them not to achieve. So they can say, oh, I'm not successful, or I don't have this in life because this happened to me, right? It doesn't have to be their fault. Whereas the other kind of thinking around this is, well, no, I have got personal responsibility and I can change this. So I think there is almost like an underlying psychological issue when it comes to, whether it's trauma, whether it's neglect, abuse, whatever people go through in life. There's all these horror stories out there, but you always have a choice. And you do hear those people who transform their lives and they are amazingly inspirational. But I think for anyone listening, if you've gone through some crap in life, that ultimately you've got personal responsibility to change that. You don't have to stay in your situation forever and play the victim.
Well, as I always say, when trying to find one, whether I've got one here now, with my little casino chips, as I always give out to people, as I always say to people, you've got eat or be eaten. You have a choice, right?
Yeah.
As I find one, because by the way, if you listen to the podcast and you want one of these, watch on. There's a little casino chip, and I always have this little. You can see there on the thing. It says eat or be eaten. And I think you have a choice. Everyone has a choice in life. You can either choose to be eaten up by the world and spat out the other side, and the world will spit you out the other side. It will chew you up and munch you and spit you out in no uncertain terms, or you decide to take it into your own hands and you decide to become your own boss. And people might say, oh, listen to this, well, I can't become. Well, you can. In any situation, there's no, as Alex is proving here, that there's no situation where you can't do that if you want it enough and you've got that determination. And that's one of the other things about, talking about, as we move into more of the positive stuff around business, one of the things I've always loved about you as well is your determination, and your discipline is incredible, isn't it? Talk to people about a bit how what, again, the way you've built your mindset and your discipline and your dedication to achieving things. I mean, I remember when we were talking about Shift to Success and you're like, I'm going to get this created over the next 3 months, whatever it was, and it was like 3 months later, bang, there it was. You're incredibly disciplined about certain things you want to do, aren't you?
Yeah, I never was growing up as a kid or anything like that. I was a teenager. I was a typical teenager, sleep in, stuff like that. I think it started to change when I started to read books and I started to equate discipline with freedom. So when I'm disciplined with my time, I actually have more time. When I'm disciplined with my money, I have more money, right? I'm disciplined with my relationships and my peer group. I have more fulfilling, deeper, meaningful relationships. So I think a lot of people think discipline is this boring word where you can't enjoy life, and that's not true. That's complete opposite. So books have really helped. And recently this came apparent where, because someone was talking about discipline the other day, and I thought about my own life, and I thought I have this is a healthy paranoia. So there's a term that I heard a while ago that only the paranoid survive, right?
Sandy Grove, basically.
Yeah, I think that was it. And basically, I almost have this, this is all the quote where, if you're the 5 years, the life you're living now will reflect the 5 years you're living in the future, right? So what I'm doing now is actually shaping my future. And I've always had that paranoia about the future in a positive, healthy way, meaning that, I want to get this done now because I know it's going to help me in the long term. So I've always had that kind of paranoia of long-term thinking to make sure I'm in a better situation. And the discipline just comes out of almost it's like a healthy fear, like a healthy paranoia to make sure I'm in a better situation. So when I started my first business when I was 24, I realized that, even if I put 2 years to this, by the time I'm 30, not 2 years, then I'd be in a much better place. And that happened inside 2 years. And in starting Shift Success, this is more of a passion business. I don't have to do this. But I thought about, right, well, where will I be in 5 years or 6 years where I am right now? Because starting that business was eating glass. It was one of the hardest businesses ever. And again, I thought about, Shift Success. And I thought, and I thought, well, where am I going to be in the future with this, right? So it's always that long-term thing. And even projects I'm starting now, it's hard, it's tough. But again, that healthy paranoia is because now I want to be in a better situation even where I'm at now, without being blindsided by the idea of chasing more. Because I think sometimes as well, I speak to a good friend of mine recently that where I was 21 years old, I dreamed of the things I had now.
Yeah.
And now I've achieved them, all of a sudden you can want more and more and more. Yeah, I think that's a curse of an entrepreneur, in all honesty. You want more achievement, more success, you want to help more people, and almost like this on this treadmill. And it's like, well, actually, what's important for me right now? It's obviously starting a family.
Yeah, well, you've always said to me about my challenges, because obviously Alex knows I do some challenges, and you've always said to me, why are you doing the challenges? What's doing? I was like, because I can, because it's the next one, I can do it, and it's that element. But it's great because that Andy Grove quote, and I use it with a lot of clients at the moment. And for anyone listening to this, it's a brilliant quote to think about. He says, and this was a guy, by the way, that ran Intel and grew Intel to be one of the world's biggest companies, the CEO, and he said, "Success breeds complacency, complacency breeds failure. Only the paranoid survive." And if you think about that, success, breeds complacent, brings, it's one of those things where people they get successful and then they get all a bit, everything's fine, everything's good, or whatever else. Whereas actually, only the paranoid survive. It's that continuation, especially in the modern times that we live in, to look out of the window and go, right, I just need to make sure I'm staying with the times and staying with the process and staying with the flow. So, no, lots of good stuff. So let's talk about business, though, because you started Shift Success. You mentioned a minute ago that it was like eating glass when you started that business off. Talk to us, because you talk to people that you are in and obviously the property stuff is being successful, and you still got that. But Shift Success was always your passion because you wanted to make an impact and give back. But being able to go out to quite a tough audience like the police and been able to try and help them, change their lives. Talk a bit about the process and what made it such, like eating glass to start with.
Yeah, so from the niche or the target customer, the marketing and advertising, that's the easiest bit. And to this day, it continues to be the easy bit of the business. And a lot of businesses struggle with that, is identifying a target customer, that niche they want to attract to get them into the business. So for me, that's the easy part. The issue that I find with starting Shift Success, and honestly, sometimes even now, 6 years on, is probably the mindset and the attitude that some police officers can have. And this is shaped around them due to the things that they see in the job. So a lot of people are skeptical in the job, right? They just have this guard up all the time just because they're in a job they have to be, right? They have to be that, vigilant type of person. So I think starting the business was, I was 27 years old. I had no case studies at the time other than myself. I had, no testimonials at all. And I've got this idea that I want to start something in helping police officers. And at the time, it was like £3,800, right? So I've then got to think about, right, selling something to one of the most skeptical audiences on planet Earth, £3,800 at the time. no previous case studies or testimonies, no social proof. That was the hard part of being glass. So I actually got about 23, I still don't know, there's 23 or 24 rejections, people saying, no, it's not for me. No, it's not for me. Maybe later, all the kind of objections that we get. And eventually that 24th or 25th person said yes. And that's when I saw the first glimpse of, actually, some people do see value in this. And then from that 25th person, 26th, 27th, and then I had 10 on my first cohort. But that 23, 24 rejections was like eating glass. It's like, I'm starting something here. I'm really passionate about it, and I want to help. But it's that, how am I going to overcome this challenge of actually getting people to believe in what I have doing? And it's funny.
Which is one of the big challenges that people have around business and selling, isn't it? Because they get 20, most people 10 rejections or 15 rejections. They'll say, "Oh no, stuff it, I'm not going to carry on."
Yeah, and I think that's I've always got this attitude: is never. If something means something to you, like, don't quit. Like, you should never quit something that means something to you, right? So a property, right? I've spent that £18,000 pound plus of that, and I wanted to change my life and get away from that old life that I had. That was my real reason why, right? Shift to Success is more a passion. I wanted to help people, right? And that was helping me through those rejections. And a lot of people who are listening to this may not realize there's something called statistical significance. So for me, I had a number of 30 in my head. So if I got 30 rejections and everyone's saying no, then something will have to change. Maybe I'm not asking the right questions. Maybe I'm not handling objections the way I should be. Maybe I've, hit a touch point with the target customer. Something's amiss that I need to tweak. So I kept going until I had those 30 conversations, and lo and behold, before that happened, I had that first customer said yes. And when that first customer said yes, after all those rejections, I'm in front of this person, and in my head, they're doing this little dance, and I've got to be very professional. We sign the documents and that kind of thing. And
but you know who that person was? Do you remember? I don't obviously know that I was there in the first take. I mean, definitely. Yeah. So, can you actually remember the first person?
I can remember that first person. Do you want me to say?
If you're open to say it, sure.
Yeah, Kelly. Yeah, first person.
What can you make? Because obviously because we're talking about sales. Obviously, me and you've talked about sales a lot over the years. But obviously, that moment where we always talk about the element of dealing with the process and understanding them and where they're at and what they're doing. But getting them to that moment where they said yes. Can you remember when she said yes and you were like, you said you had that little dance in your head? It was like, were you a bit like, is this real? Is she definitely going to do this? Yeah,
because I think you come into again, skepticism. You think, oh God, I've got another meeting. Is it going to go the same? And it's sometimes you get deflated. And another great quote. We love our quotes, but I think it was the inventor of the light bulb, Emerson. He says you've got to jump from failure to failure without a lack of enthusiasm, right? And you talk about enthusiasm, a big part when it comes to sales. So I always went into the next meeting with that outlook of being happy, being pleasant, being enthusiastic with the idea, right? But tweaking my approach slightly, the questions, the objections, learning from those past no's, right? But when she said yes, in my head, I don't know if my facial showed, but in my head, I was like, oh my God, like, this is work. This is, someone's actually said yes, and they want to move ahead. And I think when that happened, I also reflected on the meeting and then put the same thing into the next meeting. And now I had more evidence. So I now can say, actually, we've got people signed up to this already, right? I've actually got social proof. I can go into the next meeting now. So that made more congruency to the next meeting, more kind of power into the next meeting, right? And then, when the next person said yes, the next person would say, a few people signed this now. There's only a few spots left. So now it added scarcity and urgency into it, but also social proof that people are signing up to this thing. But that first one was the hardest one. And yeah, I was over the moon. I think you always remember you first.
Well, definitely. I remember every deal I do. I always love the elements around it. But so obviously, sales and business has been something you've achieved since then. I mean, this isn't about, I don't want this. I know I've mentored and supported and helped a number of the clients over time, but can you remember, there are obviously lots of people you've learned from a sales perspective. I'm guessing I may be one of them, but there's others that you've learned from as well. I mean, can you remember some of the big things that you've learned in the books and things you've read that have stuck with you, that have been clear when it comes to winning business, in which you're very good at?
Yeah, I've got no problem sharing. So you've learned me, you've taught me all there is to know with sales. So I got involved in some books and stuff like that, but it's very Americanized. And I think American sales are very different to British. I think British are very polite and, and not saying American do sales wrong, but sometimes they're a bit more brash. And I could never see myself doing that, especially with an audience like police officers. So I learned from you so amazing things. I mean, I've got no problem saying this, but I wouldn't be where I am with Shift Success to this day if it wasn't learning how to sell correctly. So I had a small inbound sales job when I was about 18, selling Tiscali broadband, but people are calling in to buy it, right? So it's not, I don't know if it's sales or not. It's literally dealing with
sales. You'll get them over the line, right? So
yeah, so dealing with that. But when it comes to the know, like, trust element, the questioning, the people that don't talk about in books, tonality is such an important factor on the phone and in person. Your facial expressions, right? Being punctual, all the things that I've learned from you, I've just put into, and still to this day. And now I've got employees who, who onboard people to Shift Success, and we've able to been help them. But the key thing more than anything is questioning. And I think a lot of people, maybe myself when I started out, was actually trying to sell something, talking about how amazing your idea is or how amazing your product is or service. And actually, you want to ask questions so the answers that you get from them kind of alignment in the right way to ultimately that making a purchase. So questioning is a big thing. How you say it's important, and listening as well. Like sometimes, I've had salespeople that have not worked out within the company. I've listened to their calls, and a potential customer will say something, they've not heard that, which lacks empathy, and they've moved on to talk about, what they're selling again. And you just can't do it like that, because it doesn't make a customer feel heard and looked after, especially in this service type of business. So questioning is really important, listening is really important, and I'd say tonality is really, really important as well.
It's a really good point. And I was talking to one of our team in growth resource in South Africa this morning about, we were doing some call recordings, and that moment when we did that, when we listened to calls and we listened to, we're getting into the disciplines of listening to, okay, that person, can you hear that inflection when they said that? When they said that at that point, can you listen to this? And it's the work that I do and you do, and you with your team now, because we know how to do it. But it's so critical, isn't it? It's that element of, and unfortunately, there are many people that are blinkered. They've got the blinkers on. They're going down to where they want to get to. Oh, well, I'm going to get to where I want to get to. I'm not hearing. Whereas actually the really clever, savvy, bright, brilliant salespeople are able to listen to the little nuances, the little words, the little inflections, the little tonality changes in the voice of their buyer as much as in their own voice, and then pick up on those and then adjust their approach accordingly, which is what you've been able to do so brilliantly.
Yeah, that was one thing that I can remember you giving me that task to do. And again, we still do it to this day. If anyone listening, I'd recommend that. So when you listen back to first of all, record your sales conversations or, your calls, and listen back to yourself. And you're not going to like it. You're not going to like hearing your own voice, your mistakes. That was a big frustrating thing for me. Why didn't I pick up on that? Why did I say that? I should have said that then. I should have asked this additional question. All these things you start to take note of. But by doing that enough, you start to look at your flaws, right? You start to look at your mistakes. And once you've got those mistakes you're doing wrong, you can then start to make it right. And I think it was you, when an athlete, we both love Tiger Woods. I love Tiger Woods, and we both love sport, right? Well, you look back on the footage of, their game, right? They look back they record their coaching sessions, they record their games, and they looking back on those games at the top of their level. Like, these are the top athletes, they're elite. They still look back over the footage to see how they can get better. Now, if they're doing that and they're the best in the world, and the people who are not the best in the world, they're not doing it, you're struggling against the tide, so to speak, right?
It's exactly right. And I feel this, huge amounts of people a lot of the time, Tiger Woods, Rafa Nadal, even the best, even the best singers in the world, they all have coaches, they all have people, and I try and, talk to people a lot about this and say, the best performers in the world, whichever the industry is, they don't just go on there and just do it, right? They don't, or they don't just go on there and think, oh, I'll be okay. They're able to look back and reflect on how they did what they did, and they're able to practice, and they're able to put the effort and time in to improve their craft. And it's the bit, unfortunately, that many people don't want to do, isn't it? It's as if they want that silver bullet. Oh, well, I just want to be able to do it right now. Well, it doesn't happen that way. You need to take time to get better at something.
Yeah, I think it's the pain. I think it's they don't want to hear the pain, the mistakes they've made, but you have to do it. You have to do it to get better.
Well, this is it. And look, we've talked a lot about it, but is that why, why do you think that there are a lot of people, you've obviously come to love selling and you've enjoyed it, but there are a lot of people, whether they're business owners or just generally people themselves, that just dislike it. They dislike the idea of selling. What do you think that is? Is it because of that pain that they're going to have to go through? Is it because of something else? What's causing it?
I think psychologically it's the monetary value when it comes to sales. I think that's where people trip up the most. So as we've learned and what you've taught me, and as hopefully everyone should know, is that sales is about questioning, right? It's about listening, questioning. And today, we all ask questions, especially police officers, right? They ask questions all the time to suspects, victims, So people can ask questions all day. But when there's a monetary value attached to it, for whatever reason, psychologically, that impacts them. And I believe that people have been sold the wrong way. So we all get those cold calls from, whoever. And that is annoying. People don't like it, right? I don't like it. Yeah, I'm sure you don't like it. We just don't like it, right? So
I play with them a lot of the time, as you know, but
yeah. I think
you're right.
I think we have a preconception of what people sometimes do, that's the way sales is. And then all of a sudden that sales has, because it's a monetary value attached to it, has a dirty association. But most people are doing sales wrong, right? So the people in these call centers who are calling you, that's not how sales are done, but you have a preconceived conception about that being done the right way. And that's not the case. So I actually think that they get a bit off-put by it, by people selling to them, which is also tied into the monetary value of parting with money.
Yeah, and I think you're totally right. And as a result of that, they therefore don't like it. And they therefore go, I don't want to do that. But yeah, ironically enough, you talk to them about what they do want. They say, I want to be successful. I want freedom. I want the ability to earn what I want. I want to be able to go on nice holidays. I want to be able to blah, 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 all the other things, which is the opposite side of trying to change that, right? So again, you're right. It's why one of my big passions is trying to help people see that to change the perception of selling. Great salespeople are problem solvers. Every single person that you've engaged with in Shift Success hasn't bought it just because they wanted to please you. They bought it because they wanted to change their life. There was something going on in their life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always outcome focused. That's important to put across. What I was going to say, attached to one of the reasons why people don't like sales is why I honestly believe sometimes it can be a self-limiting belief they have. So, as an example, if you're selling something for £5,000, right, and you're on a salary or job and you're not making anywhere near that, sometimes there's a lack of balance when it comes to your psychology. We're thinking, well, if I'm selling something for £5,000, but I'm only earning this, it's almost like I don't deserve that. And that can get in the way. I've never dealt with money like this before because I'm only earning this. And that can come across in a sales conversation, and also just triple their psychology. I don't want to make those calls because I feel like I'm not worth it for some reason, right? So that can have a self-worth aspect and can tie in negatively.
It's such a good point. And I'm happy to share the story about an organization I did some work with. And I told you the story where they came in and asked for someone to come in and do some sales training with them. And I went in with, and I'm happy to share, the figure was £27,000, right? So which is not a bad project to have and to deliver. And it certainly, was very profitable for me. And I went in with a figure that I thought was right. And again, this is happened a few years back. And they came back. I remember they came back to me and said, "Oh, great, glad you're in that figure. We budgeted 41k for it, so therefore, And I remember going, "Oh my gosh, it's 14k difference," and that was the difference between what they thought it was worth and went. Now I was cock-a-hoop with 27, but you could argue I left 14k on the table, right? So it does happen.
Yeah, that reminds me of it. There's a great film. It's a true story called War Dogs, and basically these young Americans, they're gun runners for the US government. And basically they put a quote in, and it's millions, right? It's a lot of money, and they're absolutely thrilled with it. They've got this contract, and the guys in the government are laughing at them, saying, "Oh, actually, we had a budget of 300 million." And you can just see their faces change, because they didn't think about what they could potentially get.
Yeah. which is why I always now say to people, look, try and, and as I always do, but can even do more of, qualify that element out. Typically, organisations are investing between, 25 and 45,000 pounds in this. Adds up. Yeah, that fits within our budget plans. Okay, well, it's sort of like those questions you can get to, but look, it's always difficult to work through that. But what just to have, I'm conscious of time because you've got a new hobby area focus project, I should say, that's taken a lot of your time at the moment. But so you mentioned about listening, but what other sort of common mistakes do you see business owners or salespeople make? And you're speaking to hundreds of people every day with Shift Success because the program is there. Now, by the way, I'm gonna have a look at it. I mean, Shift Success is a brilliant example of how to turn people that never been business people before into, like you mentioned, Mark Walsh, was in the police force and is now running a 5-6 people business and generating, Bill back.
Yeah. 6 figures.
I saw a note of him the other day, generated 21 grand of sales last month, right? So you've helped these guys become that. What are the big the other 2 or 3 common mistakes you think people make when it comes to selling?
I think one of them is actually not asking for the business. And I think that, so when you're on a call or a meeting with a prospect, you almost get like friend zoned. So it's like you're there for a chat and you get friendly, and I think that's important to some regards, but also I think the prospect needs to understand you're here to do business. And I think that you don't want to chat, and actually you want to have a process of actually how can I help you potentially solve these problems in the most efficient way. So a big one is almost being friend zoned. And I think the party or the person you're speaking to needs to know this is a time where potentially we're going to do business, and not right away. There potentially follow-ups and touch points along the way, but you need to understand that's the relationship, I think, or the dynamics. I think the other one as well, and this is a very small one, but I do see it a lot, but it's being punctual. Like, don't mix up names, right? So if you're speaking to a lot of people out there, and you got like a huge prospect list, don't mix up your names, right? Don't be calling someone Karen when the name's Sharon, right? And if you're going to have a meeting and it's on a time, show up 5 to 10 minutes earlier. Be prepared. Don't be like trying to find your pen on the call. Other things like making sure that your phone's off on a meeting, right? Because it shows that you're focused on the actual meeting. Things like that. Just being punctual is a big thing. And I think lastly is probably don't be so upset by the no. So you're going to get no's. I get no's all the time. Every single week we get no's. And I think you need to understand that the no's that you get doesn't mean no, not now. It doesn't mean no, not never. It means no, not now. We've had people who've had a conversation with us years ago, and then they've ended up joining, right? Because we've kept in touch with them. So to tie that in with that problem is probably follow-up, having a process of having touch points with people, following up, how's the situation, just checking in, how's your how's that business idea you said you was going to pursue, how's that progressing, just having that regular touch points, because more often than not situations change and they are good to go. So yeah, don't be disheartened, don't like kind of cut people off and say no, I'm not going to call that person again. Just put them in a nurture sequence, make sure you're checking on them, and sometimes they will come over the line, just needs a bit of time. I think another one, just one more in the bonus, is know when to say no to the customer. So like, they are bad customers, right? The customer's not always right. I don't know who coined that term. The customer's not always right. But if you don't listen to them, neither will your business, right? So you've got to listen to them, right? You've got to listen to their feedback. But we've all the green flags are there. So we've had conversations with people. We've had, we've gone through our process. We have an application. We have an additional 10 to 15 minute call. Then we have a longer session, and then we onboard people with selection criteria. So we have a very process of signing up with people, right? But then there's that gut feeling that comes in, and you're like, right, there's some green flags here, but there's this few big red flags here that I'm not too sure about, but they still want to join. So they still want to buy from you, and they still want to be a part of what you're selling, but your gut is saying, something doesn't feel right. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something not right. We've said yes to those people. A few months down the line, we've had to ask them to leave. So not every customer is the right customer, even though they want to join.
it's such a good point. And I talk to people a lot about, you do not want BMW customers, right? Okay. Bitches, moaners and whiners, right? Because at the end of the day, BMWs are great, but if we both drive one. But the point is, the reality is, you don't want them as customers, right? You don't want those people that are going to bitch and moan and whine about everything. Because, and I was with actually one of my, that was actually from a good friend of mine, Matt Garman, who I run a business with in growth resourcing. But we talked a lot about actually something the other day, and we were talking about a client that we were having some challenges with, and we actually said, and we both said in the room, we'll make the decision first, not them. And we were both quite key on, actually, no, this isn't going to go down the route of them deciding to end things with us. We might decide to end it with them.
Yeah.
And it was that element of, we're going to make that change. And it's a really interesting one, because I think you bang on. It's about making sure that as I always say to people as well, desperation's a stinky perfume. If you're so desperate to win the business and to win, it sends off the wrong signals. And you want to be very careful about that. So look, I'm conscious of time, and we've, time as always, mate. I can chat to you forever and a day, and we normally have these chats on a golf course, but your golf game's gone. You're having. Well, for anyone that doesn't know, Alex's partner Safer expecting a baby quite soon, which is exciting. So he's got not that he's not got the juice to be on the golf course, and not that he's ever beaten the old grandpa. He calls me grandpa.
I'm not beating yet. I don't think I'm moving.
But look, what's your, you mentioned around the the deal that you won, which was, Kelly, when you brought her on board. Was that your favourite ever sales deal that you ever brought on board, or can you remember another one that's come aboard that you thought, no, whether it's in this business or another business, the favourite moment you've had from a sales perspective? And also the downside of that, can you remember your biggest ever sales mistake, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I think the first one with Kelly Statham, I think that was with Shift's success, that was the nice one, because it proved the concept and people do see value, gave me more confidence. With my property business, the first property that I purchased with investor funds, that was an amazing feeling as well. I think I don't think there's a sales negative that I think about, but there are obviously that experience of actually asking people to leave. So when you see a customer come into your organization and they're behaving not as you would expect them to behave, especially with selection criteria and stuff like that, that's never a nice conversation. That's never a nice conversation. So we've got to do it to protect the integrity and culture of your business, right? And it sets the tone as well. Like, we're not going to be messed around. We are here to do and get an outcome for you. But unfortunately, these are the things you have to abide by, because otherwise it's not going to work. So I think that's never a nice conversation. I think the first time that happened, again, working with hundreds, is, I just didn't, because it was a new experience for me. I didn't know how to approach it the best way. And again, it tied into sales, because, say, asking them questions, do you feel like, this is the right thing for you? How are you, going on, and thinking about them as well. But ultimately, that wasn't a real nice feeling, to be honest. A bit like letting employees go because they're not performing. That's never a nice feeling either. So yeah, that's probably the negative or the down one.
No, okay. Well, I know that it's you've had more successes than failures a lot, because of who you are and what you've done, and that ability to learn. And we might as well talk about your next project, because you might as well tell the story, because you can show me up on here. So there was a conversation that me and Alex had a few years ago with in an area, wasn't there? Can you remember this guy? You could definitely remember. I know you can.
I can remember it.
So come on, you can tell everyone about this, because and by the way, look, it came out of love, didn't it? Because it came out of a care that I wanted. I've known the industry that you're now doing some elements in, and I wanted you to be careful about it. But come on, you can tell everyone, this is a good finish off to the podcast. Actually.
Yeah. So I was at an interest in trading the financial markets, so things like forex, indices, and gold. And I spoke to you about it, and I was like, what do you think about this? Because you had experience, connections in this space, work with huge companies. And obviously, because the inner workings and the sometimes the things you might see in the industry, you said out of love and care, as a that person would, just maybe think about it. You might want to just maybe think about something different. So it was said in a nice way. But when you said that, I was like, I'm going to do it anyway. In my head, I kind of knew it. I was going to do it. So that was about, it was over a year ago now. And I've been trading the financial markets. I've recently become a funded 6-figure trader, trading Forex and indices, and I absolutely love it. And we're launching a platform soon called Trade to Success, where we're going to be helping people who basically, from the police, people who are fed up with being restricted by the job to level up their skills and live life on their terms.
And I think you're actually being quite polite there, because I actually was I also said something to you. I'm not sure this is for you. I think I said to you, this requires this, and this, these sort of elements.
You said it's not going to be for you. You need to be good at maths. That's what you said. And because I'm terrible at maths, like I've got an E in GCSE, not very good. But it turns out when it comes to figures, money, and percentages, I'm really good at it. And obviously there's calculators now as well, which helps. So yeah,
they didn't remember my day, didn't they?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's great, and I'm really proud of what you've achieved with that, and it's going to be the next phase of your journey, especially as you've got a family on the way and things. It's going to be exciting to see it. But I think it's also a really good message to leave people with on the podcast of, there's an area of something that was brand new that you didn't know, that you didn't have any background in, but you've applied yourself. You used your continuation of discipline and hard work and commitment to making something happen, and use that channel, like maybe with your mum years ago. You used me as a channel I'm not saying to impact in that right way. And the end result is you're getting the results from that hard work. And it's still a lot to learn, there's still a lot to do, but it didn't come without dedication and sacrifice, did it?
It didn't. And again, it comes to that thing, if you don't quit, you can't really fail if it means a lot to you, right? So you don't want to pursue something and put yourself through so much pain, even though you despise it. That doesn't make sense. That's like having a job you hate, right? But things like Shift Success, the property, now trading, it's like, it's worth it for me. And one of the reasons, yes, you are one of the reasons, but also it's like, we were planning to have a family. And I thought, yes, I can pass, business lessons on to my children. I can pass, wisdom and that kind of thing. But I thought, what's a real high valuable skill set that accelerates income, where essentially it's all on them. Like it's them. There's no kind of economic factors. There's nothing that, no customers, no clients, no marketing campaigns or anything like that. It's just you and your skill set. And I came back to trading, and I've always been interested in it. So now, because there've been times in trading where I thought, oh, God, this is hard. This is not working, right? But that thought of having a son who's here in 12 weeks, it's another reason pushing me. So now it's gone from anger from my first business to love. And I think that's a very nice feeling for me to have, because that past Alex is not there. I'm filled with love now, not about, proving people wrong.
I think it's a brilliant way to focus on things. And so what we'll do is let you can teach your son trading, and I'll teach him golf. How about that?
Yeah, that's a good deal. Yeah, my golf game is terrible.
No, Alex's golf game is decent. He hits the ball a long way because he's got some big guns there. But no, it's great. And I think it's a brilliant example of what you just said there, of turning a difficult situation. You were in that difficult situation in your later years. And that's why I think, the one message people can take from today's session is there's always a reason why, you'll feel you can't do something, or that something is in your way or stopping you from doing it. But just having that dedication, that focus, and channeling your energy to want to become a better version of you. And it's like, again, someone said to me the other day, if we're better today than we were yesterday, then we're in good shape. And and it's that having that mentality and mindset, and to be, as we go back to eat or be eaten, you have a choice. You do have a choice. Whether people think they don't have a choice, everyone has a choice. It's whether you choose to take that choice.
Absolutely. And James, what drives you? Because obviously you've been in business a lot longer than me. You've built successful businesses. You've mentored, people and helped them gain success. What's the one thing that pushes you? What drives you? What gets you out of bed in the morning to pursue the things that you want to pursue?
Impact. If I can make an impact in people's lives, if I can make today, someone I could help today to make do something that they didn't know they could, that it gets them a result, then that's what drives me. So to me, it's about being able to know that. I've had this conversation with you before, which is vital, right? I live every day as if when you get to my age, you have to. But I live every day as if it's my last. And if it is my last day on the planet, then do you know what? My legacy will live on. There's 600 videos. There's this podcast. There'll be people hearing and talking about, and hopefully learning from some of the ideas and things that I've learned in my life in way after I've gone. And to me, that is the best thing possible, that you can leave an impact and leave a legacy on the world in a positive way. So that's why I do the podcast. That's why I do the videos. That's why I do the content. That's why I share stuff, so we can help change lives and make an impact. So yeah, good question. But that's definitely, as people know, that's why I do what I do. And I may not be the richest person in the graveyard, but I'll be the person that's happiest and knowing that I've done what I wanted to.
Yeah, I love that. And it's not just about riches as well. It is about impact, and it's about leaving the world in the best place that you found it, and making a positive impact. So I love that.
Yeah, which is what I try and do. So, but look, it's been awesome to talk to you, mate. And thank you for those that want to reach out to you. How can they reach out to you? What's the best way to get in contact with you?
You can type on LinkedIn, Alexander Seery, or Facebook, Alexander Seery, or Instagram, Alexander Seery. You can reach out. My email is alex@shiftstosuccess.com.
I'd highly recommend you connect with Alex. He's a brilliant businessman, huge amounts of knowledge and expertise that he's always continually, he teaches me stuff on a regular basis, things that, he's sharp in his saw, hugely on day to day. And I think having, surrounding you, there's that great quote as well, you surround yourself with the people that are going to make you better. And that's why me and Alex have built up a great friendship over the years, because we push each other to become better. And I think that's part of the process. And if you can do that and you can surround yourself with people that help you, then you'll be in great shape. So, look, thank you so much for your time this morning, mate. I know the American markets are open up now, so you're ready to start trading, but close. But look, it's been great to chat to you and talk through things. I hope people have enjoyed the podcast and the experiences. And thank you as well for your honesty, because to share what you did with your mum and what happened in your life is very personal to you, and I'm very grateful, and hopefully it's going to inspire someone to actually go, do you know what, if in that, I know that's what you would want if that was their situation with a difficult family moment, to actually turn the negative into the positive, which is what you did. So, and you, as I always said, you get my huge respect and admiration for how you've made your life into what it is after the challenges you went through.
Yeah, and by the way, anyone listening, I'd always recommend, like, if you're going through a situation and you've overcome it, to share your story as well, because sometimes your story can be the key that unlocks someone else's prison. And by sharing your story, I didn't share it for a long time in my younger years because I was embarrassed, but now I'm at the end of it and have changed my life. You've changed your life as a result of going through some hardships. I think more people need to share that, because it could help people, because you don't know what they're going through. So I appreciate you for having me on and let me share that.
No worries at all. Look, and I guess the other thing, knowing that final thing on that point is you've also invested in yourself. You invested in a mentor. You invested in training. And I guess that's the other thing, knowing you as I do, that you would probably also give to people as advice, right? Which is to make that investment in yourself, like you did there. When you were sick, when you invested at 18K, it felt bad, but it gave you everything you needed as a platform to succeed, didn't it? It's
so important. So, I don't want people to think I'm saying this because I own an educational company, go and join someone else's. I'm saying this because I know this is going to change your life, right? I didn't know about property. I didn't know about anything, mortgages, how to raise finance, how to seek investors. I didn't know any of that, right? I learned the knowledge first when I was financially broke after spending 18,000. Once I had the knowledge, that allowed me to get the results. It's never capital that stops you. It's never money that stops you. It's that you don't know what you don't know. And those things you don't know are blind spots. And blind spots can cost you a fortune. So when people talk to me, Alex, I want a 6-figure business, or I want 6-figure income. And I say, okay, what are you on currently? 30,000. Right, well, there's a 70 grand difference. That £5,000 product you're thinking of buying isn't your biggest cost. It's the 70 grand you don't have because you simply don't know what you don't know, right? So I invest in property. I invest in business training companies for my own, marketing, leadership, to sales, all the things that I've invested in myself to get me where I am now. And when it comes to trading, yes, there's part on YouTube, but I also invested close to, 4K in my own education to learn this stuff. And now the other side of it, I'm getting results. So there's always been a kind of a thing there kind of a pattern. I invest in myself. I know how to do it. I implement, get the results. And for anyone watching, I find it very sometimes frustrating where people will spend 40, 50K on a degree and they don't use it to get them a 50 grand job, and they're in debt now for that degree, but they can't spend 5 grand, 4 grand, 3 grand on themselves to learn a high valuable skill set that's going to set them free. And I think that's an indoctrination sometimes we have as kids growing up, that we go that way instead of actually investing in ourselves, right? To learn how to read and write, you go to a teacher. Driving instructor to drive. To play golf, you go to a golf coach. You invest to get the outcome. When it comes to change your life financially or in business, that seems to be a miss with a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a really good point, on which we'll leave on. So again, if you want to invest, talk to Alex about his programs. But more importantly, just that starts from books, right? I mean, I'm looking on my desk right now, and 2 books that I love reading at the moment. Read just about a bit. If you read this one, is a genius book, Copywriting Secrets, and also the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, which is a great book just to dig into. So look, these are things that we've all got on a regular basis. So look, thank you, mate. Absolutely privileged to have the chance to get to chat to you as ever. It's always a joy for me to see you. I'm going to try and pop up and see you in the beautiful Nottinghamshire countryside quite soon, and see you before, hopefully, or even when the baby is born. Maybe that might be in the better time. So, but look, it's been brilliant to chat. Thank you so much for your time and your honesty, and I know you're going to be inspiring to other people that are listening to this as well. So, appreciate it hugely. Okay,
thank you, James. Cheers.
So there was Alexander Seery, his story, a brilliant story, and encourage you to connect with him. You can learn so much from him, and I hope you'll enjoy with me agree with me that the insights he shared there were just incredible. So that's it for this week's podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please like and subscribe to the podcast. Make sure we share it with other people so we can get people like Alex's stories out to as many people as possible, and we'll take it from there. But until next week, have a great week. See you soon.